First year full-time academic advising. Everyone in here is a first year student continuing. Okay, again, thanks for coming. I'm Ms. Reagan, one of your academic advisors, and we'll just do introductions.
Hi everyone, I'm Rhonda DeNovo and I am the MSW coordinator. So I wanted to say hello to you all and let you know that if you need anything, my office is right upstairs. I'm in 221, just right around the corner from the ladies' restroom. So feel free to stop by anytime.
I'm Bree Grace. I am the chair of the specialization that it's referred to as SEED, but inexplicably it stands for Society, Community, and Economic Development, so it's more SKEED. But if you hear about SEED, I'm the person who oversees that.
Hi everybody, happy Friday. I'm Marguerite Desayu Wright, and I'm the specialization coordinator for the health and mental health specialization. I'm going to talk with you in a minute about that. Welcome.
You guys seen me before, right?
That's Mr. Grant, an academic advisor as well. And first chair.
Hi, I'm Sonia Singleton. I'm assistant for students, but I'm not here.
And these, yeah.
Deja Murphy, she's my work study junior exercise science major.
Okay, and please introduce yourself.
I'm Melissa Johnson. I'm a graduate assistant for Mr. Cole.
Yes, my helper. And with that being said, before I get to the actual advising, that is going to be live streamed and also recorded for you if you ever want to go back and kind of go through it again. It's going to be recorded. Before we do that, does anybody here need a plan of study?
All the courses.
All the courses are on it. You might take notes, so we'll let her pass those out right now. And she's also going to give you this lovely note taker, so when the specialization chairs get up, you'll all have it.
Would you like one? Yes.
Yeah. Remember that game and like or the first student? Remember we did advising where they logged in and we could track.
And we have one more introduction. Just go ahead and introduce yourself, then you'll be able to talk about your specialization a little later.
Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Patrice Penny and I'm a clinical assistant professor here, and also I chair the specialization for children, youth, and families. So I'm looking forward to talking with you more.
Okay. Everyone should have a couple of sheets of paper now if you want to take notes while we're going through. Just a quick show of hands. Everyone got an email about final transcripts being sent to the graduate school. Yes? Have you all done that? If you're just leaving another, not USC students, but another college or whatever, you've sent your final transcript to the grad school. I'm asking because that will hold you up from registering in this place. Okay? Thank you. All right, so full-time academic advising. Here is where you are, okay? You are in 712, 714, 716, 781, 791, specifically human behavior 1, diversity, human behavior 2, first term of field instruction, and social work research methodology. Everybody has 5 classes and are on track, okay? All right, here is where you are going. In the spring, you will register for Social Work 722, practice with individuals, families, and small groups. You will also register for Social Work 732, practice with organizations and communities, 742, social welfare policy, and 777. You notice different section numbers here, and this will all be explained to you a little bit as far as what each specialization is all about. But if you have decided on SEED, and as Dr. Gray says, SPEED, you will register with a 1 in the section number. You may find multiple sections of other specializations, but this first one will probably only have one section. It'll be 010. When you get to health and mental health, 020, you're going to find multiple sections. That's because it's the, I shouldn't say popular one, but more people tend to flock to that one. So 021 you may find, and 022, okay? Depending on the need for it. So don't feel like 020 is the section you must go into, okay? If we need more sections, it'll be 021, as long as a 2 is in the section number. I guess that's the best way to explain it. And the same thing for children, youth, and families. The 3 is the key number if you have decided that this is your specialization of choice. And then your final class for the spring will be Social Work 782, which is your field practicum, your second term of field instruction. And the section that you're in now, the number 02 or 001 or whatever it is, should be the section that you register for 782, okay? Any questions about that? All right. It's pretty easy breezy, huh? All right, specialization sections, I just talked about that. The 1, the 2 for health, mental health, or the 3 for children, youth, and families. Note on this chart, and we're giving you a lot of information here, but it's important to remember that the specialization you start out with, if it's the 2, or if it's the 3, or if it's the 1, you will follow that next term, 778. I'm sorry, 778 is actually your final term, but you will follow that fall, 779. Your specialization has to match. In other words, you cannot start out with SEED and then jump in this term and say, hey, I'm going to do children, youth, and families. Let it match for 3 terms, okay? Choose wisely. So that's specialization code. And this is good to know because on your schedule, you're going to see classes that have alphabets in the section number, like the P, the C, and the G. As full-time students, you want to stay away from those. They are for our part-time cohort of students. Now, what is important for you on this slide is the J. It's the web. The J in the section number indicates that this class is online. You're not going to find probably none of your core classes that are going to be online, but when we get to talking about electives, J means it's on the web, okay? But these you want to stay away from, and actually the system is going to help you because if you attempt to register for one, attribute holds should stop you. That is not your class as a full-time student, okay? Specialization information. You ready? All right.
Bree, you wanted to go first?
Oh, it's just a matter of changing the slide.
Sure.
Yeah, oh, wow. Yeah, there you go. They're going by the way they were seated. Okay, very good.
You're so very prepared. Hi, welcome. It is nice to see some familiar faces out there in the room. I am Dr. Grace. I am the, like I said, whatever, specialization chair. So you will probably hear more about this in a minute, but I want to reiterate something at the beginning. When you graduate, you are all going to graduate with the same diploma. It will all of you will be generalist social workers with a master's of social work degree, right? So one of the cool things about the specialization is that you get to choose the flavor of the degree that you are getting. In other words, you're going to take classes in the areas that really interest you and that you find intriguing, and in the areas that you perhaps want to practice in the future. So the specializations are a way for you to do that. And I think about the specializations as like flavors of ice cream. So you're all getting ice cream, you just get to pick which flavor you want. So the seed specialization, students tend to think of as kind of the old micro versus macro practice debates. And that's not actually, it doesn't fully encompass it, because in fact, lots of the students who graduate with the seed specialization actually go on and do quote unquote kind of micro practice in the future. They work with individuals. For instance, we have a graduate who just graduated who works at the Department of Mental Health. And so what really sets us apart as a flavor of specialization, if you will, is that we tend to focus on different forms of inequality within and across society. So kind of community level inequalities, things like gentrification, perhaps, if that's your area of interest, or youth programming, or what are the intersections of things like health disparities in education. So the master or the theory class within SEED focuses on that question of inequality, and we read a lot of stuff on housing and families. We read stuff on schools and healthcare access. We read a lot of kind of theory that helps integrate some of the different areas. Now, it gets a little confusing because sometimes students are like, but I want to go into school social work, so shouldn't I be children, youth, and family? Sure, you can be. You absolutely can be. You can also be SEED. And so SEED is essentially a way of thinking about inequalities and the ways they intersect across society. Thinking kind of perhaps macro, where if you want to do things like community organizing, we have students who go on who work for like city governments, and they run, we have somebody who calls herself like the Leslie Knope of her community. She runs like the Parks and Rec department in her small town in North Carolina. We have students who do, who work with like business development, who do loans. They work with banks and city government to do loans for women and minorities in their community. We have students who work in mental health, or graduates, I guess. We have graduates who work in programs for immigrants, who work at legal clinics. And so we are really interested in kind of thinking about the ways in which social inequalities work and social development works, the way that community development works, and the way that economic development works. So that's a little bit about the SEED specialization. Do you have any questions? I know that's kind of abstract, and I know it's much easier to kind of understand a population, right? Like children, youth, and families, that makes sense, right? It's a very kind of specific population. But we kind of work across populations, and we work across sectors. So it's not healthcare, it's not mental health care, but perhaps it's the intersection of the two. Or it's the intersection of schools and health, or the intersections of schools and economic inequality, or the intersections of racial inequality and healthcare. Any other questions? Nothing? Please, if you have questions, feel free to stop by my office. It's right across from the women's bathroom down here on the first floor, so I'm sure you've passed it a million times, so feel free to knock and let me know if you have any questions, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And her information is here, her email and her phone number, okay? Perfect. All right.
Can I go next? But don't show that picture.
No? Don't show that picture? Okay.
Just kidding.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how to not show the picture.
Can I borrow your slide advancer in this room? Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Marguerite Desayu Wright. I tell my students it rhymes with hey you. You may never have to use that word if you see it. Dr. Wright is who I am, or Marguerite. And welcome to the MSW program. How's your term going so far? So far, so good. You're getting to find out where things are around campus and around the community? Yeah. Ask. There are lots of folks who are wandering the halls who have some good information for you. So please don't be afraid to ask for what you need, okay? I'd like to talk with you about the health and mental health specialization for just a couple of minutes. And the question is, well, why would you be interested in a health or mental health specialization? And I echo what Dr. Grace said. You know, we're giving you a good education across the board. Sometimes we think, you know, we educate you a mile wide and an inch Specialization allows us to go a little deeper into a field of study that you might be interested in. And so why health and mental health? Well, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention talk about well-being, and human well-being really does impact my sense of quality of life, your sense of quality of life. It also is associated with length of life. My mental well-being contributes to how long I'm on this earth, in addition to the quality of life. We talk about the healthy behaviors or unhealthy behaviors we participate in, our sense of quality of social connections or our social isolation, and productivity. Do we have meaning and purpose? Do we have something to get up for every day? So our health and mental well-being is an important factor that we as social workers need to understand for our clients. Okay? Why now? Well, you might have looked online when you were applying to programs and see that a number of social work programs do have a focus on health and mental health. And that's because there's a great need. Almost 46 million adult Americans have some kind of contact with a mental health issue. Okay, think about that. And a number of those issues get identified in primary care settings. So we integrate health with mental health because that's the way the field is moving. So along with need is an opportunity. Okay? And that's the intersection of success too. We more and more recognize mental health issues. You know, we can't read the news or social media without being aware of how mental health issues are getting played out in our communities. Okay? And so we need to address these and not be afraid to address these. We need to address the stigma related to mental health issues and not be afraid to go there and ask people how they're doing. So there's this opportunity, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, raised the profile of mental health issues and looked at, we didn't get there, but we looked at not only funding health, but mental health for people's well-being. So this brings these topics to us in the field, and it positions social workers to be well qualified to not just deal with the medical deficits, but to look at recovery movements, to look at substance use disorders, to look at mental health and well-being across the spectrum. And I've embedded this link, and I don't know if you're going to have access to these slides, but FYI, do you know onetonline.org, which is the federal government's job site? And if you type in social work, you see the suns are bright outlooks for future jobs. Okay? And clearly, look at that, post-secondary teachers are on there. Child, family, and school social workers, healthcare social workers, mental health and substance abuse social workers. There is a great need, and there are some jobs to match. So if you're interested, I encourage you to look at those qualifications and see what you might do to position yourself. So our curriculum, as Ms. Reagan said, you're going to take 777, 778, and 779 in health and mental health. And we're going to build on, in the spring, you're going to learn assessment skills in your 722, work with individuals, families, and small groups. You're going to do an assessment assignment so that you understand how do we look at what's going on in a person's life, and we'll build on that, and we'll teach you theories, advanced theories. Why do people do what they do? Why do communities or neighborhoods do what they do? Why maybe do people or neighborhoods not do something that we think they could be doing to better their lives? So our theories help us understand that. And then in our interventions courses, we'll look at evidence-based practice, and we'll look at what our field currently says is going to be effective intervention working with individuals, couples, families, groups, communities, organizations. Okay? And then that 778 class is your advanced policy, and we'll look at specific policies that impact health and mental health at a state and a federal level. Okay, so that's the curriculum. it gets kind of tricky, and this is where I say, keep calm and see your academic advisor. Ms. Reagan and Ms. Singleton are going to walk you through this. But when it comes to next fall, and within the health and mental health specialization, you get the option of 2 interventions. One focuses on health interventions, so working in a healthcare or behavioral health setting, how can you bring a social work voice to the table and work in interprofessional teams? And the other intervention course is focused on these more, the practice skills for demonstrating evidence-based interventions. So we'll talk you through that. Okay. We're going to teach you the science of social work. And that's a really important part of getting a good education and doing graduate work. But I also don't want you to forget that social work is also about connection, human connection. And at the heart of what we do in health and mental health is try to connect with people. So I'm going to show you a 3-minute video, if my time's not up just yet. This is one of my favorite social workers, Brené Brown.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. At least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Makes sense? Do you know that to be true? So our health and mental health specialization is an opportunity for us to look at not necessarily how to make things better for our clients, but how do we tap into their own resilience, their own well-being. And we do this in lots of ways, maybe direct practice more, or we can look at, when we look across the span of micro to macro practice. So that's part of your education. So my office is up on the 3rd floor, 329, and this is my email address if you're interested, or if you've got questions for me. My name's got a different spelling, just FYI, but you can find me on the website. Does anybody have any questions related to the health and mental health specialization?
When you were talking about the classes and the difference between mental health and then another one experimental health, would you explain a little bit more like that?
Well, Yes, I'll give you just a quick overview of that, and then this is something that can come up later on in advisement as well. You'll have another advisement session before you have to make that decision. But the health interventions course, we assume that you might be interested in working in a hospital setting where there's physicians and nurses and physical therapists and other folks. And how do you bring a social work perspective to those team staffings? So there's a focus in the health intervention on interprofessional practice. In the mental health interventions course, maybe you're working in a community-based organization, maybe you're working in inpatient or outpatient settings. And we're going to look at what evidence-based practices are currently effective for working in various settings. So motivational interviewing, cognitive behavioral therapies, dialectical behavioral therapies, emotion-focused therapies. We're going to look at these various therapy interventions and how do we practice that. So to focus on skills. Does that help? Yeah.
I'm still kind of surface level diving into licensure. I think I want to get my LCSW after I graduate. And I've heard that there are some classes that kind of align with that.
Can I let you speak to that?
Sure.
After you do, how about Patrice, you do your presentation on CYF, and then Patrice has done a lot of work related to the licensure. So can I hold on that question?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just please remind me.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. It's complicated. Can I say, first of all, you said LCSW, so that means that you're not from South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm from North Carolina. But I know you
Because
guys have
different states have different standards for licensure, or whether they require licensure at all. So you need to understand what's going to be appropriate for you where you're going. And then there are different levels. Do you know you can get licensed as a BSW? You can get licensed as an MSW, and then you can do advanced licensure. So beyond an LMSW, if you want to do 3,000 hours of supervised practice and sit for another exam, which enables you to bill for service and do independent practice, then a couple of courses might be useful. And I'm going to let Patrice talk about that. What other questions do you have?
Do you have any recommendations about a dual degree with health administration at the medical university?
That's a great question. Any recommendations for dual degrees with the School of Public Health?
Health administration.
Health administration. So we partner with the School of Public Health for two different degrees,
Yeah.
two different dual degrees,
Yes.
right?
They
Are you going to speak to
They
that?
are on the website, the public health website, and it speaks to, I believe they still call it dual now, but it has another name soon coming, but the information is the same.
We have a number of students who do that, and if you're interested, we can connect you with some other students who do. You can do a dual degree and add a year to your program, and you graduate with an MSW MPH. So I think the best person to talk to might be another student who's doing that, so if you're interested.
When would you start that? Like, when would you apply that to?
What's your last name?
Youngs.
Okay, you're mine. Come see me.
I like referring. Yeah. Okay, any other questions, or? I'm going to hand it over to Patrice. Thank you. Here we are.
Oh, you don't need my picture either.
You have a lovely picture.
Sorry. I'm going to eject so you have a place to put
Sure.
yours.
Yep. Give us just a second.
Thank you all.
keys. Oops. There we go. All right. Well, welcome again. And I'm aware I'm speaking to folks who are joining us remotely as well as you all, so thank you for coming. I'm going to start by trying not to confuse you, but trying to make sense of how children, youth, and family specialization fits in with both SEED and health, mental health. As you've probably figured out, we have 3 different kinds of specializations here. And we've had lots of conversations over the years and continue about how do we organize interests in specific areas. So I want to try to be very clear because there is some overlap. So you've heard about SEED, a bit more of a macro focus, but much more focused on, as Dr. Gray said, on the issue of inequalities, which does come up in our other specializations and in your whole program as well, but that's their particular focus across different issues and different areas of practice. And then you heard Dr. Wright talk about health and mental health. And that's an area of practice, right? That's practicing in mental health or in health where you would think you need specific skills, and you do. So children, youth, and families is focused, as Dr. Gray said, on a population. So not surprisingly, we have overlap then with the other 2 specializations because we're definitely looking at different areas of practice, for instance, schools, mental health, hospitals, juvenile justice, and so on. And we do also include a very specific focus on children's mental health. So if you think you're interested in working with children and adolescents, I'm here to strongly recommend you consider children, youth, and families because we do focus on it and because we are pulling from child development and so many of the theories that you need to very specifically work with children, which at least for mental health, I would say, is a specialization. Agreed that you come out with the same advanced practice or advanced, what did I just say wrong? Is that right? Advanced practice degree for everyone, but you would still have specific skills and courses that can help you think about a position working with kids. So if you love working with kids, as I do, and their families, I would encourage you to think about this specialization. So I'll walk you through it, and then if you have questions just about any of them, but especially this one, I'm happy to help you. So the opportunities are to work with children and their families in many different settings: prevention, early intervention, interventions, and interventions all the way across the spectrum, from a residential treatment center to a school to juvenile justice, just lots of different possibilities. Children tend to still be an underserved population. You heard Dr. Wright talk a little bit about mental health sort of coming to the fore. Children's mental health, in my experience, I've done this work for about 35 years, and in my experience, a lot of folks will say, oh, I'm okay working with sort of late adolescents, young adults, and adults, but don't give me a 10-year-old. And so if you work in this specialization, you will learn competencies working with 10-year-olds and 3-year-olds and their parents, and 15-year-olds and 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds, and we really work across that spectrum of ages and then their families. And I love what Mandela says: there can be no keener revelation of a society soul than the way it treats its children. And to be honest, if you're in HIPSI 2 right now, and I know some of you have me for prof, one of the things we're going to learn is we don't do so well in terms of treatment of children. And if you look at our international rankings, we have a ways to go, which is to our shame. So there's plenty of work for social workers to be doing. So we're working with children, adolescents, families in all of these areas. Child welfare, which differs state by state, and again, you could be working in child welfare, more the forensic side of it, or investigation, or you could be doing interventions, or foster care, or intensive foster care. So again, many different possibilities within each area, schools, mental health, and I loved what Dr. Gray said, if you're interested in schools, I would actually recommend CYF, but do take seed courses, because that's the joy of this, this advanced generalist, that's the word I wanted, degree, is that you can really move across those, the electives, and take courses with different professors and different perspectives. So also mental health, juvenile justice, community organizations and programs. So one of my, I'll just tell you the last 4 students I heard from, one of them is working with Big Brother, Big Sister. Another is working with child welfare in Georgia and going out and doing intensive home therapy. Another is working in DSS here. Another working with 0 to 3. And actually he said, after taking the courses, including a family course, he was hired as the supervisor out of his master's program because he had such good training. So lots of different possibilities. We try to work from a developmentally informed place always, so we bring child and adolescent family development forward, looking at culturally competent ways to work with folks, very family-centered, and trauma-focused. And that's my area, but even if it weren't, trauma seems to underlie a lot of what goes on with children and what makes life difficult for them, and even psychopathology, so we definitely look at trauma. As you've heard with the other specializations, we have a specific theory, policy, and practice course related to this specialization. So here's some of the theories we look at: attachment, neuroscience, family systems, risk and resilience, trauma, all just lots of different, and some of the same ones that you heard in mental health, because there is a lot of overlap, except our focus is on kids who are qualitatively different than adults. So again, if you're interested in working with kids, I recommend this because child development makes such a difference in how you think about mental health. Policy in the areas we've talked about. Lots of different possibilities, and lots of different issues, which we'll come to in a moment. And then interventions related to children and families that are struggling. And again, we focus a lot on trauma and abuse and neglect, other mental health issues, behavioral health issues, disabilities with kids, if you have an interest, for instance, in autism or intellectual disabilities, that kind of thing. Community violence, so we do try to look at more macro issues as well. So you'll develop skills for assessment, interventions. Some of the evidence-based practices we'll look at are trauma-informed practices, cognitive. You heard about DBT, it's now being used for adolescents, so we'll look at that. We'll look at, what else? Lots of different multi-systemic family therapy, lots of different interventions for kids and for their families. So I want to just name a couple of issues that might kind of bring this to life for you just a little bit more. For instance, right now in South Carolina, how many of you think you might practice in South Carolina in some fashion? Okay, so quite a few of you. So right now in our schools, we don't have very many social workers. Huge shock to me coming from the Chicago area where we do. And so just thinking about how could we make school social work a more robust program in South Carolina, because Lord knows we need it, right? The kids need that focus. So I heard on the news yesterday that there's $12 million just appropriated by our state legislature for, anybody know? Not school social workers, school resource officers. My heart sank. Honestly, I have nothing against police, but there's a lot of good evidence that we'll look at in this specialization that says SROs in schools end up raising the number of the kids that get arrested and go to DJJ, but not really helping. And they tend to maybe not target, but they do arrest more black and brown kids. So is that really what we want? Well, the end of the news article said $2 million was appropriated for school counselors. Well, school counselors are guidance counselors, and again, nothing against them, but they're academically focused. Where's the money for school social workers? So, we can dig into that on a policy level, advocacy, also in terms of thinking about interventions. What would that look like to have more school social workers here? So just as an example of an issue that we look at. And not only that, but how do we make our schools more trauma-informed, more compassionate? So those are the kinds of things we might look at. With mental health, we're looking at cyberpathology, we're looking at individual and family interventions, looking at rates of suicidality in adolescents, we're looking at bullying, how that impacts mental health, we're looking at substance use, what it looks like, how policy impacts it, what we can do in terms of interventions. So you get the idea. And hopefully it all goes together as well. Lots of places you can work. I'm not going to read them, but you can see there's just a wide range of places you can work. And so again, to just reiterate what Dr. Wright said, there's a lot of jobs in mental health, and guess what? If you are specializing in children, you are, I think, sometimes even more in demand, again, because a lot of folks don't specialize with children. So children's mental health, school, DJJ, there's a lot of need for those, and a lot of folks hiring. Okay, and then the last thing I'd like to emphasize is that I think we have an amazing faculty when it comes to child, youth, and family issues. So look at some of the ways in which we specialize in this program. You may not know all these faculty yet, but I can put names by all of them. Lots of different areas where we specialize in terms of research, policy, and practice. So you've got a real depth and breadth of faculty to work with here. Okay, so my contacts, I'd love to talk with any of you who are interested. I'm very passionate about this specialization. And I've worked in it a long time. I do international work with kids as well as working here locally. So happy to talk with any of you and happy to take any questions you might have. So anybody with a question? I remember yours, so we'll come to that. Yes?
If we pick the specialization of mental health, would we listen anything with kids, or it's just
Not
for adults?
Not really. It's much more focused on adults, and also focused, not entirely, it's focused on a range of mental health interventions, for instance, and it has quite a focus on severe and persistent mental health, which is an area of interest for some folks. We don't have that with children because the onset tends to be in adulthood, so we're looking with children much more at intervention, prevention, and I just said that backwards, prevention and early intervention and intervention around kids. And one of the things I love about it is we're trying to get kids back on the developmental path they need to be, where we're hoping that they will not develop more significant mental health issues.
So whatever specialization we get, we can also get elective from a different specialization?
Yes. Oh, okay. And so,
Yeah, I'm just going to speak to that a little bit later, even though you may have your theory and the other 2 classes in a particular specialization, there are elective options that you get, and you can kind of blend your time here and get a plethora of knowledge in a lot of different areas by way of elective courses, even though you have chosen this or that specialization. And by all means, it's been said 2 or 3 times, that specialization is not on your transcript. Only you know the knowledge you're gleaning here. It is. Yes.
However, what I would say is you can emphasize it in your resume in ways that it's really clear what courses you've had and what your internship is and what you've focused on, which I think can be a real asset with any of the specializations. So that's not just LCYF. And I know Ms. Reagan will talk about that. We've tried very hard to make sure that our elective courses are not tied to one specialization, but work across them. So there are those possibilities. I will say, though, having taught in mental health, that it is much more focused on adults. And as it should be, because the way we have it, the way we have the specializations, mental health with children is covered in the CYF. Yes?
Earlier when you were talking about if we choose children, youth, and family services, and we wanted to focus on mental health of children. Were you saying that if we get into like our second year, y'all have like a specific focus on just children's mental health?
So children's mental health is focused on in the interventions course, and I would say that the majority of the interventions that we look at in that course are different ways to do individual and family interventions with children. That course also tries to look at, okay, if you're in the school and you're trying to do trauma-informed care, how would you help the whole school shift to a more trauma-informed model, which is, again, moving it up towards meso or macro practice. So that but it's a lot of the same theory and practices scaled up or scaled to the individual. But definitely you will get good mental health training in the CYF. And I do emphasize that because I just think a lot of students are very confused about that. And maybe it's our responsibility just in the way we develop the specialization, so I'll make that on us. But I think there are 3 wonderful specializations, and you have a lot of variety. I know I'm probably running out of time, but any other questions? And I want to come to the psychopathology, but I can take just a moment on that. Okay, another question?
No, sorry.
No? Okay, anybody else? Okay, so you had asked about with mental health, so let me speak to both children's mental health as well as adults. So we have revised and sort of reconceptualized the courses in psychopathology and psychodiagnostics. So they used to be offered as separate courses. We've now put them together across the lifespan. So we are now offering in a face-to-face elective child and adolescent psychopathology and psychodiagnostics. So working from not only etiology and reasons and causal issues related to child and adolescent diagnoses, but also the diagnoses themselves. And then we have a second course that is on adult and older adult psychopathology and psychodiagnostics. Both of those courses are taught face-to-face by well-trained faculty, and I'm doing the child and adolescent one, and there are a couple of faculty who are doing the older adult one. And so here's the thing. Dr. Wright was correct in saying if you're planning to practice in mental health, figure out what state and then really study the state licensure, because South Carolina has requirements that a lot of other states don't have. So South Carolina requires that you have both of those courses. You have hours in psychopathology and psychodiagnostics. Our courses do cover those hours. It's not the only way to get the hours, but then there are other layers to this. For instance, if you work with mental health in the state, they want you to have face-to-face time and graded time. So they don't want you to do these as CEUs or as, continuing education. But you can, if that's not the requirement, it's not South Carolina. So we're not trying to give you, and I don't want to try to give you advice. You can go to the website, our website, and you will find links to every state, or you can just type in social work licensure for the state you're interested in practicing and really look at it, because some states only require that you graduate from a CSWE accredited program, and we are. Some states have different kinds of licensures. So we have tried to make this as strong a course sequence as we can, both just for students and understanding and knowledge, but also for licensure and to fit with South Carolina. But we can't make any guarantees, and we really encourage you to just look at your licensure for that state, if that makes sense.
Are these psycho classes, are they electives, or are they a part of the specialization?
They are electives. They are not part of the specialization. In fact, the only 3 required courses would be the 7, 7, 7, 8, and 9 that we've talked about, the theory, intervention, and policy courses. And so those are electives. Anybody can take them. You can take both or one. And again, a lot of that depends on where you're headed and what you think you're going to need.
And you said it was child and adolescents focusing on the causes of diagnosis
Both
and
of them.
diagnosis
Both of
themselves?
them. Yeah, both of them are focused on psychopathology, which is causal, and then psychodiagnosis, which is actually working with the DSM-5. And so one is child and adolescent, the other is adult, older adult. Okay.
And typically for your this full-time group, the questions about licensure usually comes up in the spring advising, but you're early. I love that, being proactive. Michael Otone is a name that you want to jot down. He is our licensure guru, but yeah, he can help you along this path. Yeah.
And a number of us did research on this when we put together the courses, so you'll find that there's a number of us, including Mike, who are pretty familiar with sort of the ins and outs of this. He's a great person to go to. I'm also happy to talk with you about licensure with what I know. I certainly don't want to speak beyond what I know, but we did compile a lot of research on both the programs and licensure, okay? Really good to see you all. I wish you well in your choices, and please feel free to come and talk with any of us. We'd be delighted. And can I just put in a plug for faculty advising? I know you've all gotten your names of your faculty advisors. Even if you don't know that person, we are really happy to meet with you. And if I find out you have interests that don't align with mine, I'm going to send you to the faculty members that I think would be most helpful to you. And I think all of us will do that. So I would encourage you, because faculty, you know, Ms. Reagan is the expert on this curriculum and how to get through it, how to navigate it, and all the ins and outs of it. The faculty can talk with you about sort of what the field looks like and where we've been, where we're headed, and research interests and those kinds of things. So hopefully we work together, but I just want to put in a plug for faculty advising, because we really would like to meet with you and get to know you. Thank you.
And what's your room number?
Mine is not on here, 32, what is my room number? 323, top corner of the building, right by the entrance.
Just before you get to the large conference room.
Yeah, thank you so much
Yeah.
for your time, and thank you, Ms. Reagan.
Yeah, Andre left me, so.
All right, so do you want to go back to your slides? Okay, so that should come up, right? I'll go, and I'm going to just do from there, and I'll take this. All right. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Show of hands, everybody knows who their faculty advisor is, right? Okay, great, great. So from the talks of specializations, you know, or you kind of are getting a feel for where you might want to go with it. And if you have questions, you have, where's Concurrent? You have all of their contact information. Do you know how to make it big? You have all of their contact information. And you see from listening with them talk about each specialization, you understand how you can be in a specialization for 3 classes only, the theory, the advanced, let me go back, yeah. You can be in, and it's only these 3 classes throughout your whole matriculation. These are the only ones that are going to speak to specialization. When you're trying to choose 722 or 742, for example, they have nothing to do with specialization. Only these 3 classes. So even though you have chosen, say, children, youth, and families, what about that elective that's going to give you more in the mental health area? So while you're here, get to know your faculty advisor. Don't just go introduce yourself. Really plug them. They've all left me. Mr. Grant, Ms. Washington, and I are your academic advisors. We'll keep you on track for course work, making sure you're in the right class, the right amount of electives, that sort of thing. Because you see, when you look at your, I don't have a full plan of study on here, but look at your plan of study. There are 4 elective spaces there. So you can choose electives that are literally like fitting a bill of how you want to tailor your education here. Does that make sense? So we talked about these specializations, and now we are here. Concurrent enrollment. Some of you may have met with Ms. Rhonda DeNovo already for drug and addiction studies, or you may have met with, during orientation, Dr. Nikki Wooten for the military certificate. If you have not, it's not too late. There are concurrent enrollment forms up here if you're so interested. All it takes is 3 additional classes, 9 more credits. What that means is you will graduate not with 60 credit hours as a full-time student, but 69. Just adding on 3 more classes, and when you graduate, you will have your MSW and a drug and addiction study certificate or a military certificate. And I'm showing this slide still because if you're already enrolled, show of hands, who is already enrolled in one of the certificate programs? Okay, none of you? But if you were, there would be perhaps a hold on your account. So before your time ticket comes up, you want to contact your academic advisor and have them remove your advising hold. That will, stop you from registering. So we don't want to hold anybody up. Can any of you see your time tickets yet? Have you been able to look at them? Okay. So there's this date out there in time that says you can register on November. Yours, for example, is?
Oh, I can't remember the specific day, but it's November, I want to say 13th.
Okay, so her date is November 13th. It'll have a specific time on it. It doesn't mean you have to be like right there and, oh, if I don't register by this time, I won't be able to register. It just means that's when it opens, and then you have from that time until to actually put your classes in, change them around. A lot of students put 5 classes in, and then they leapfrog once they start thinking about other things. So they will make changes. So if any of you are so interested, there's a concurrent enrollment form up here, and like I said, it's not too late. So that's the certificates.
Could
Yes.
the certificates fit in as the electives? So you wouldn't
Now,
have to do
on your MSW, that's a great question. On your MSW plan of study, there are 4 electives. So if you're going to add the certificate, you're going to need 3 more electives. So all total, you will need 7 electives. Okay? And the coordinator will tell you what those 3 other electives are. She'll do a plan of study with you. That's the purpose of meeting with Ms. DeNovo or Dr. Wooden. Because they will do, like you have that MSW plan of study in front of you, they will do a certificate plan of study. So you bring that map to me if you're N through Z, to Mr. Grant if you're A through G, or whoever your academic advisor is, and we will show you how to strategically map that out. Just getting 3 more classes, and you will have 2 degrees when you graduate. Okay? And their information is there. Does that answer your question? Yeah. So the key thing to remember is MSW, 60 credits. MSW and a certificate, 69. Okay? And here's the Q&A part. A through G, last names are Mr. Grant's advisees. H through M is Ms. Washington's advisees. And N through Z are my advisees. Okay? And we do it that way for, I guess, just paperwork purposes and a couple of other reasons, but I think just kind of spreading the wealth a little bit. But don't by any means feel like if you run into me in the hallway, you cannot ask me a question if you're not N through Z. You could be in the A. We're all academic advisors. We're here for you. Okay. Any other questions?
If we don't know who our faculty advisor is, how do we find that out?
What's your last name?
Sansbury.
Did you use your, is your email like USC, I'm sorry, yeah, your USC email, is it linked to your personal email and getting forwarded?
I don't think so.
So did you not get that email from
I
Sonia?
could have and don't remember.
Okay, okay. How you find out is send an email to Ms. Singleton, and she should be able to resend it to you.
Okay.
You know what? A better one. Start with your academic advisor. You know who that is, right? Yeah. Ask your academic advisor if they know how to get that information quickly, because they may have a list too. Okay? Any other questions? All right, so we talked about your spring, we talked about time tickets. Everybody has the handout showing you how to find your time ticket, so you'll know when to register. Okay? Asked you about final transcripts already, told you to stay away from the section numbers with the P's and the C's in them because they are for part-time students. Yeah, you guys keep in mind there's a few programs running here. Your first year full-time there's second year full-time, there's an advanced standing group, there are part-time first, second, and third year students, all within this umbrella USC, okay? Oh, and let me not forget, there's a career group that is also under our umbrella, and they graduate this December. It's usually a part-time 3-year program, so they will graduate every 3 years. So when you're on the registrar's website and you're looking at classes, stay away from the one that has a K in it as well. That's career, okay? So all of us are under the same umbrella, so it's important. Your plan of study has it on there. It specifically says your classes are offered, for example, advanced year Wednesdays and Thursdays, with some offered on Fridays. So it's very specific to when your classes are, and then when your field practicum is, okay? All right, well, thank you for your attention. Y'all have been great, quiet, but great. All right.